Next question.
Next question is because last week we did talk about how to, as a coach, how to cue someone when doing something like a heavy carry. And this week I would love us to do the same thing pretty much when you, for instance, coaching someone for a pull-up. And this is kind of like one part of the question. And the other part is like, I would love to know what goes through your mind when you are doing pull-ups. What kind of like someone pretty much to have like a look, maybe like a beginner, and then just for fuck's sake, I would love to know someone who has pretty much like mastered pull-ups. What do you still have to what do you
I have
still
not
have
mastered the
to
pull-up at all.
what do you still have to think about?
Yes. So when you want to talk to somebody that has mastered the pull-up, I can highly recommend talking to a gymnast because those have mastered
Okay.
the pull-up.
Yeah.
I'm an amateur. I'm a student of the game. I can do a couple of pull-ups. I can string them together. And I think I have a decent way of how to explain it to normal people so they can get the fastest direct route to pull-ups as there is of today. All right. So let's start with my thoughts and let me backtrack of what that means for you out there training for your pull-up. Okay. When I do pull-ups, it's super simple. I always start with neutral grip. Always. Why? The reason is super simple. Without getting into too much details, a neutral grip allows me to have to apply evenly pressure with my hands on the pull-up bar, right? So what does that mean? The same concept with the foot. There's certain muscle chains, obviously running through your body, and there's certain, and obviously they have exits, so to speak, on your activation points on your hand. But this is not only about proprioception, right? This is not about, okay, if I press here now, that means my lats will grow. No, no, no. This is not how this works. It works like this, knowing that this part of your hand, the outside of your hand, is more prone to getting towards, where's my hand? Here's my hand. So when you grip on the outside of your hand, this means you're going to go into the inside of your forearm, to the inside of your biceps, which is going to get at some point to the lat dorsi, which we're going to ultimately need for doing more pull-ups, right? So this is an information that is important when I grip stuff. Forget it, grip neutral, and you have it covered. Super simple. If I grip pronated, well, guess what? My body weight is going to put more pressure on here because my body is in the middle and it's going to just drag me towards the center of mass. So I have more pressure here. Maybe that's why it's harder to do pull-ups this way. If I go the other way around, supinated, way easier for most people. Maybe it's because if I hang like this, my body's pulling obviously towards the center of mass, so I have more pressure on the outside of your hand. So this is going to help me get more forearm, biceps, and eventually to the lats. Okay, this is the basic concept, and that is the tension part. Now comes the important one. You can know all of this, but if you don't know what position you're looking for, it's pointless. You have to combine position with tension. So what's going through my head? I'm gripping neutral. While I'm pulling myself up, I'm literally only thinking about two things. First, for me, my head, the pull goes from my elbows are in, and when I pull up, my elbows go as far out and back as I can. While doing this, I'm focusing on, okay, I want to pinch my shoulder blades together while driving my elbows to the outside, right? I videotape myself, I watch the video, and there's a tipping point, right? There's a tipping point right about, I would say, here, right? Because this is where your biceps can pull you,
Mhm.
and for going all the way up, you need your lats. If you don't have lats, you can pull up to here, and then something crazy happens because you're rounding your shoulders to get all the way up there. Rounding your shoulders means your shoulder blades are going to go up and they're going to move towards the outside, right? So whenever you see someone doing a pull up and ending up like this, right? Shoulder, I'm sorry, shoulder blades are up and shoulder blades are going to the outside. not a huge issue. The only problem is in that shoulder blade position, your lat dorsal cannot work as efficiently as when pulling the shoulder blades together, because guess what? That's the main function of it in that movement. So when I'm pulling, I'm thinking about, okay, my elbow started in the middle, on the inside, whatever you want to call it. When I pull up, I want to have consistent movement of my elbow going towards the outside while bringing my shoulder blades together all the way towards the top. All right. Obviously, you're not going to do this on the first rep, right? And I'm not doing this on the first rep, but I literally stop when I see, okay, my shoulder blades are not coming in any further towards the inside, but they're going either up or rolling forward, or I bring my elbows in, or I chicken out with my elbows, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something you can visually see happening. And that's what I'm thinking about, right? Because I can do a couple of pull-ups, so that's the way I do it. The second thing I'm focusing on is, guess what? A neutral pelvis. Yes, you might laugh about me thinking about my pelvis when doing pull-ups, but here's the point. Neutral pelvis means super simple. Keep your butt squeezed while doing pull-ups. You'll realize this is way fucking harder to do a pull-up than just letting go and letting your pelvis tilt. All right. Nothing crazy is going to happen to your whatever pelvis or back just because you're tilting. You're not loading it. That's totally fine. The only thing that I want to add on top of all the shoulder blade and elbow shenanigans is if I keep my neutral pelvis, that means the lat insertion at the hip crease is going to stay where it's supposed to be rather than tilting my hips forward, which is going to dislocate, which is going to displace, it's a better word, displace my lat. That means if I keep my neutral pelvis and my glutes on while doing pull-ups, I can put more pressure and more tension on the lats, which is the whole point about doing pull-ups, right? We're not doing pull-ups to get shoulders and melons like this. We're doing pull-ups to practice pulling the shoulder blades in while your elbows are moving out and using the lat dorsal as the primary movement. That's about it. And so that's what I'm thinking of. Go ahead.
Just a question. So to paraphrase, could you say that you also kind of like tuck in your hip, or you kind of like squeeze your butt also to have like the lower part of the lats working? Is that pretty much what you just said, or is that what I heard and it's wrong?
Yes. No. Yes, but I would not say so it's working. I would say so it's not working, right? You're just turning it off. That's all I'm saying. You don't want, like, it doesn't matter if your lower parts of your lats engage or not for getting you up there. But if you're not using it, you will always end up somewhere around here and then try to round the shoulder and go up. So that's the whole point. This is not gonna hinder you from doing pull-ups just because you're tilting your pelvis. But if you want to get to that gymnastics pull-up of going chest to bar pull-up of all the way up and down, which I heard is a thing in functional fitness, and it's actually really good for shoulder health to be able to do this, then I would go for training it with the neutral pelvis. All right, here's the point. If you're not sure what your hip is doing and you're not trusting your own glutes to be on, there's a super simple thing you can do. Just get your feet together and tuck your knees a little bit so your ankles are literally in front of your body, right? If you're in that position, your hip cannot tilt.
So like kind of like a banana shape?
Okay, think about doing like an L sit.
Mm-hmm.
So like the stool thingy towards the front. So the knees are in front. That's your upper body. Knees are in front. Okay, you can lower it obviously because it's really hard to keep that tension in the obliques going. Doesn't matter. Just keep your heels in front of your pelvis. This will engage. This will not allow your pelvis to tilt, which will make your glute max work more than before. Trust me, it feels way harder to do the pull-up. You will be frustrated, but that's how you get endless amounts of pull-ups over time and not get stuck at the first or second one or at zero.
But am I kind of like in my head when you do kind of like you pull up your knees slightly when doing a pull-up, you can still kind of have your back fall into that C shape though, Because I often feel like when you really want to tuck it in, even when you pull up your knees, you still have to kind of like get it in there. Am I wrong with that? But are you getting what I'm putting out?
Yes, I am. Okay, let's try it in practice. If you hang from a pull-up bar and you get your knees up and your ankles are in front of your hips, in front of your pelvis, there's anatomically no possibility of you overextending your lumbar spine.
Okay.
Okay, here's the thing why. Um, because if you bring your knees forward, this means your hamstring have to engage. If your hamstrings engage, your glute max engages. Once your glute max engages, there's no way your hips can tilt either to the front, to the back, obviously even less, right? So because you're tucking it already, I mean, for most people will feel like they're tucking it backwards as crazy. Like you're
Mhm.
sitting all the way down on the bottom of a squat, you're just relaxing it. That's what it feels like for most people when you're doing it for the first time. And that's actually neutral for probably also the very first time. Why you're thinking you're overextending is maybe because your upper back is flexing as well, which is a
Mhm.
great thing that actually happens because this is going to allow you to put your shoulder blades in. So if you take a video of yourself doing this the next time, and watch what your hip is doing, and then watch what your upper back is doing, you realize there's nothing moving in your lower back, like zero, and there's maybe a little bit of flexion
Mhm.
in the upper spine, which is perfectly fine because that's what's going to help you actually move your shoulder blades together and use the lat dorsey to your advantage. So that's what I think about, or not think about, but that's what I focus on when doing pull-ups, right? Um, and that totally differs from day to day. Sometimes I can do 10 in a row with that kind of, it's a checklist, but with that kind of systematic approach in my head. And it's some days it's really hard to do like six and not do some fucking crazy stuff, right? And that's fine, right? So, but as long as you know what you're doing, it could make sense to do 10. And at some days, it could be really counterproductive to do 10 because after six, I'll do this, I'll do seven, I'll do eight, I do nine. So whenever you practice something, make sure it encourages and it pays into good behavior
Mhm.
rather than bad behavior. Because there's only two ways your training can go. It's either going to feed a problem doing this, or it's going to fix a problem doing it the other way around. There's no in between. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to execute it. You have to watch it and be like, okay, let's stop at six or seven. Maybe crank out an eighth one. Nothing's going to happen if it's not going to be perfect form. But any other rep on top of that wouldn't make any sense from a learning perspective. See it like this: you're I don't know, you're learning for an exam, whatever, and you learn for 12 hours and you're brain fried. It doesn't make any sense to continue. Yes, you can sit there for another 12 hours, but nothing good's going to happen. Sometimes it's better to invest like 12 hours or 12 reps of super focused work and then just call it a day, and finish off with a not perfect, but with a rep in the right direction. Win the last rep, you call it a day. You come back the next time when you're training pull-ups, and you just continue stacking those small wins every single session. And all of a sudden, swing, one day you're gonna do a pull-up, your shoulder's not gonna hurt, and 2 months later you have two, and 3 months later you have three, and then you have four. You have a hockey stick progression rather than, okay, I can crank out one shitty rep or two shitty reps, and 3 months later my shoulder starts bitching. And that's me.
I have a personal question here though. Did you always have this approach, or is that something you learned from years of doing the opposite and like cranking out 9, 10, 11, 12, just to be like, okay, I did it, and then you learned it the hard way?
Okay. Everything that's in the book is based on trial and error and a lot of failure from my side. Every single body part of mine has been injured to to one degree or the other, right? My shoulders were fucked. doing functional fitness, competitive. I don't even know where to start. Like inflamed biceps tendon, AC joint inflamed, partially ruptured infraspinatus, partially ruptured supraspinatus. Like I've been to all the places, and my smartish words don't come from pure wise Greg. It comes from being so frustrated about those things happening and having or getting no sufficient answers to actually me being able to fix it. That frustrated me for a couple of years. Then I tried stuff. I sat down, wrote a book for 2 years, and here I am explaining how everything works perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's a super fast process. Took me 2 weeks and it's all done. What was the question again?
The second part of the question was how you would cue someone when doing pull-ups.
Yes. So this is way more important because it's about you guys out there, especially if you don't have pull-ups. So we talked way too much about myself today. This is about you now. Okay. Every single piece that I've talked about, whether it's being the neutral pelvis or your elbows going from in to out or your shoulder blades coming in, this is stuff that needs to be learned. And then you can apply it to the pull-up at some point. How are we going to do this? This is super simple. We have a list of exercises with those principles that we found to create the fastest direct path to doing pull-ups. For example, and we sequence it. Actually, I talked about this with my coaches yesterday. So we're trying to figure out like the perfect sequencing to get the shoulder blade sequence going from out to in to out, the whole shoulder shenanigans delivered to our normal people as fast as possible. So what we're doing right now is what's the best way to teach someone how to get their elbows out and bring the shoulder blades in that can be loaded safely. So basically, that is low skill, that can be loaded heavily, and that has no eccentric portion of it and doesn't load your spine, right? So we do Chinese rows, twisting push-ups, I'll just name all of them, chest supported dumbbell rolls, and educating people on what their position and their tension should look like, right? So it's not just about doing those exercises, is what's going through my head. I'm trying to distill it and deliver it to the person in front of me while they do their Chinese rows. So super simple example. If you want to do a pull-up, you have to be able to do exactly what I just talked about before. So I'm teaching this in a Chinese row now. So relax your shoulders fully at the bottom. A Chinese row is when you're laying horizontally. There's like a Swiss bar underneath you. You're on the bench. Your arms are fully extended, so your shoulder blades are out, and you're literally practicing going from here, shoulder blades out, down and out, to shoulder blades down and in, while getting your elbows out to the side. So that's the sequence I want to train to ingrain in my system, that I can at some point up the skill, go for twisting pull-ups, and at the end of that process, we're going to build it all together, and then you're going to do pull-ups. All right, how long is that going to take? Is the next question. I don't fucking know. That depends on where you're starting. Could be a couple of months, could be 3 years, could be 7 years. It doesn't matter, because I know that it's going to happen at the end. And the only thing that is gonna influence that time frame is you. You need to learn some new stuff. I will help you, but there's another part that I cannot influence, and that is your time investment, right? Because I wish, but I could not force you to show up at the gym. I wish, but I could not force you to practice deliberately. I wish, but I cannot do it for you. But that part is on you. The more time you invest, the more deliberate you practice, the more you think about that stuff that you want to actually achieve, the faster you're going to get your pull up. I know that we will get there, but the only person who can answer how long it's going to take is you. Are you giving me 2 hours a week, 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours? Then I can give you an estimation from my past experiences, how I think, how long it's going to take you to get your first pull up. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my point, bottom line of how to train a pull up is, because right now you're either going to step into a band, which is not that bad of an idea if you know what you're doing, right? I'm all for it. That's a great tool for practicing getting your shoulder blades out. I'm sorry, getting your shoulder blades in, getting your elbows out, squeezing them in, pressing them together, keep your neutral pelvis. So as long as you know what you're doing, I have no stocks or business in any equipment that's being used. I couldn't care less. Like, figure out what's working best for you. What we're doing, we're implementing that strategy with ring rolls, for example, with twisting pull-ups, so your feet stay on the floor or on the bench, so you support your body weight. And we're gonna go play back and forth between, okay, this is how the movement should look, this is how the movement should feel with different exercises, and then getting as much blood flow in as possible with really simple technical stuff like over the yoke rope pulls, lat pull downs. That combination of those three elements of learning the actual movement, which you could call technique if you want to, fine, with exercises that can load heavily, like the Chinese row, and still practice the technique, and then something technically so simple that you don't have to think about anything, but just like literally pump as much blood as you can into your lats, which is, for example, the row pull. The combination between those three plus good coaching, I can guarantee you get a pull up.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's
I
it
don't
for
know. I
today.
don't know. Cool, sweet. Guys, these are awesome questions. It actually helps me think more practically about that stuff too, not think about it in theoretical concepts, just talk about the shoulder blades, but what actually happening when I'm training or when I'm training others. This is great stuff. We'll keep it going. And I guess we see each other next week. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye-bye.